Hey sports fans, here's a tip to keep in mind the next time you make your betting picks. According to research, home field advantage is no joke, especially in those playoffs. In the NBA and the NFL postseason, the home team typically has a 64% shot at victory. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
I got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl. I got a feeling there is no chance they're going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I'm just kidding.
They're still not expected to have over 8.5 wins. They're still not expected to have a winning record. Now, I know things could change for the next 24 hours. I get that. But everyone expected Aaron Rodgers to sign with him. He's going to sign with him.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Plenty of takeaways from Yankees-Dodgers where LA sent a message on Saturday, and the only way the Yankees could salvage it was somehow beating Yamamoto, and they did.
You're staring a sweep in the face, and after losing the World Series, knowing what the opponent is, you know what the narrative would have been on Sunday Night Monday. Oh, Yankees get swept by the Dodgers.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that riff. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
18.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on.
Good morning. Welcome to the midweek edition of NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Less than 24 hours away from teeing off at the U.S. Open. We'll get a full preview as what could be a very treacherous week for the best players of the PGA Tour. Brady Kannon will join us later in the show. We'll also break down the latest in the National Basketball Association. Yes, we have a game tonight. Feels like a lot of time in between these games, but yes, Oklahoma City will take on Indiana this evening, so we'll have a preview of that game as well. In addition, Sam McQuillan will join us from Legal Sports Report, and of course, we discuss some National Football League as OTA is going on right now, and some players speaking at the podium, coaches too. We'll get to that in just a sec. We'll start off with the biggest sports betting news of the day. It looks like DraftKings could be following suit on FanDuel. Boy, those operators don't like what the state of Illinois is doing by setting an extra tax rate on top of some of the sports bets and money that goes into it. Right now, FanDuel has decided that they're charging a 25-cent surtax on every single bet that you make in the state of Illinois, and it appears that DraftKings will follow suit, increasing it to 50 cents on every single bet taken after the initial $20 million bets. DraftKings, FanDuel are the only operators that are having this going on right now, but needless to say, it appears that the company is going to follow what FanDuel has decided to do. So if you live in the state of Illinois, it's possible that not only on FanDuel are you going to have to pay a 25-cent surcharge, but on DraftKings, it's possible you will as well. No word on how the state of Illinois will respond to this. Meanwhile, the New York Knicks, looking for a new head coach, may have honed in on their next one. It depends on what the Dallas Mavericks decide to do. They've requested permission to speak to Jason Kidd, the head coach of the Mavs. Dallas has given a rejection on the ask, but needless to say, still possible that they could work something out. Maybe a draft pick or a trade could be involved, and we don't even know if Kidd wants to coach the Knicks. But needless to say, their coaching search continues. No search for where to watch the NBA game tonight. It's the finals. It's tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's get the updated line on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Oklahoma City 5-point favorites, total of 228.5. Thunder played very well in game 2, not as well in game 1. Indiana hit a big shot. Needless to say that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander previewed the game, talking to the media beforehand. Very pragmatic response and very obvious where things could be headed.
The way I see it is like the series is 1-1. The goal is to win 4 games, and after it being 1-1, it's now the goal is to get to 3 games, and it's first team to 3. So kind of like it's a blank slate. It's a scratch, 1-1, 0-0. and his first to 3.
I feel like if I try to do something different, I'm not like superstitious or anything, but I feel like you just try to treat every game the same way, honestly. I still eat goldfish at 60 minutes on the clock. I still go to chapel. On the road, though, I don't go to chapel as much. I kind of do like a private chapel session. That's really the only thing that I change. But yeah, everything's pretty much the same. Just try to treat it the same, because the minute that I try to switch it up or put more pressure on myself or our group than there really is, or then that needs to be applied, then I feel like guys can get nervous or whatever the case is. Let's just be loose, play basketball.
Ferrell Coast to Coast with a full preview coming up 3 o'clock Eastern on the NBA Finals. Let's recap some of the baseball games from last night. San Diego Padres win again. Manny Machado has had a season to remember. Could he be headed to the All-Star game this year? He's playing great. 11-1 final as Machado had 5 runs driven in. Dylan Cease was the star of the show on the mound. He struck out 11 over 7 innings pitched. It's been a very difficult season for Cease, who had just 1 win going into the game. Mike Schill talked about better late than never, getting some great performances.
Yeah, it's like you say, never a bad time, but very timely for all the obvious reasons, right? But Dylan was really good. We got into that starter 7-inning spot that is really important to us, and obviously we were able to open it up with a lot of relentless at-bats throughout, top of the lineup, carrying the weight for the most part down through bogey, but whole team effort. Malty contributed the 9, but yeah, it was important.
There's a couple things in there that like Cease getting to be this guy. How important would that be for you guys here?
Huge. And the way he did it tonight is a great blueprint for it. Dominated 0 and 1-1 counts. So he was just, first 3 pitches were 2 out of 3 were almost all strikes. So he does that. It's earlier outs. It's sets him up for the strikeout that he clearly has and wants, but also allows him to get earlier outs, which wins for 100 pitches, 7 innings. That's pretty much the recipe.
First major league hit last night for Roman Anthony, and he got his first win in a Red Sox uniform. 3-1 the final. The Red Sox beat the Tampa Bay Rays. Anthony, of course, discussing getting his first hit, but also saying how much sweeter it was last night to get the win.
Yeah, a lot more fun. Winning's fun for sure. So that was great, and just got to keep it rolling.
How was for you to have your family here for the first time?
Yeah, it was awesome. That group out there has been with me every step of the way. So just to see them here, I know they had to miss yesterday. Unfortunately, it was kind of quick notice, but to have them here was special for sure.
Father, mother, sister, coaches. Who's it?
Brother, agency, uncle, grandparents, 2 friends. So solid group for sure.
Your mother crying over there.
Yeah, she gets emotional for sure. But yeah, it's just awesome to have them here and to see them, right there by the dugout and to get a win in front of them.
What was it like having them right there? Come and going to your at-bats when you come back in after your double. Just, do you talk to them? Do you acknowledge them?
No, I didn't really talk to them much. I didn't even really notice they were there until I went up for my first at-bat. Nobody really gave me that heads up that they were going to be that close. But again, it was just awesome. It was awesome seeing all them and awesome to have them here and to get a win.
New York Mets end up rallying from behind to beat the Washington Nationals last night 4-2. They were down 4-2, the final score was 5-4. The big story in the game was the performance of Jeff McNeil. Remember him? How good he used to be for the Mets over the last few months or so. Seems to be back to the McNeil of old. Here's manager Carlos Mendoza liking what he's seeing.
Carlos, what has Jeff McNeil meant to you guys as of late, and what have you seen out of him as it almost seems like he's snuck under the radar, the type of stretch that he's been on recently?
A really good player and a good hitter. And I'm going to go back to the second half last year when he kind of turned it around, when he started driving the baseball, using the whole field, but just dictating at bats and putting swing with conviction, And as the past week, I feel like he's done that, where he's putting himself in a really good position to hit, and not only hit but do damage, because we know the bat-to-ball skills are off the charts, and I feel like he gets in trouble at times when he just trying to put the ball in play on pitchers' pitches, as opposed to getting a pitch where he can drive and we've seen that. And like I said, when he's going that way, is a really good hitter.
I think right now the best hitter on the planet is just getting better. How about Aaron Judge's night last night? Another home run. Austin Wells drove in 5 runs. The Yankees beat the Royals 10-2. The story from this one was Aaron Judge, a 469-foot home run at Kauffman Stadium. Sounds like, to Judge, one of the most powerful home runs they've seen in KC.
He started things off there in the first inning with that 2-run shot. Aaron Boone said he doesn't know that he ever saw a ball hit there at Kauffman Stadium before. Just what was your immediate reaction when you made contact with that pitch?
I'm just glad to get the 2 runs. You know, we haven't faced Cameron at all. You know, saw a lot of video. You know, he's got some great stuff. So just anytime we can get a 2-run lead like that, and you got Max Street on the mound, you know, we like our chances over here.
He was asked about your performance, and he said you need to be called up to the next level.
No, it's great. It's great. He got me my next 2 at bats, you know, so it was a good back and forth. He was making some great pitches, some tough pitches there. So, you know, looking forward to seeing him again down the road.
All right, let's get to some football news. We'll start with college. Deion Sanders has been away from the team, dealing with an unspecified illness, saying that he will be back to the program sooner than later. Kirk Cousins not playing in OTAs right now. Not a big surprise there for the Falcons. And the Broncos have signed J.K. Dobbins to a 1-year deal. U.S. Open preview with Brady Kannon next.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
No one is going to pick Indiana. No one's going to pick Indiana to make it close, honestly. Like, you can't really, you could get tremendous odds if you pick OKC in 7.
I think that taking the series over 5.5 games, the last 2 NBA Finals series ended in 5. I think this one goes 6. I think the Thunder will get the job done, but I think the Pacers are just too strong of a team and too talented of a team and too deep of a team to lose in 5 or fewer games.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Probably the most unpredictable of all the majors is going to tee off in the morning. We can't wait to watch this one. Father's Day weekend. Brady Kannon joins us now. I have a feeling Sunday could get wild. Brady, thanks for coming on the show here. So before we get to the odds, and I'm going to break this down a little bit later in the show, you really have to be sort of following along what's been going on in the preparation for the U.S. Open. Now, you and I both know that it brings out the best and the worst of a lot of the players on the tour this week. There's going to be some really unpredictable stuff. Players who have had no shot in the past are going to be probably, I would say, in the Final 4, Final 5, and there are going to be a few players here at the top, Brady, that are favored that may not even make the cut. I mean, I don't know how that you could just feel so confident betting on anybody based on what I'm seeing in the preparation on these greens for the U.S. Open.
You're totally right, Craig. It seems like we see it in this championship all the time. If you go back to the last two editions, now, first of all, the US Open is always billed as the most difficult test in all of golf. Well, that particular test happens to be at a golf course that is often referred to as the most difficult golf course in the world, Oakmont Country Club. This is just going to be incredible. The prediction out here, the prop number for the winning score out in Las Vegas, and I've also seen it at other books around the country as well, is 1.5 under par. 1.5 under par is what they're expecting the winner to be at come Sunday. In 2007, that winner, Angel Cabrera, was at 5 over par. In 2016, Dustin Johnson was at 4 under par. But to your point, the guy that finished runner-up in both 2007 and 2016, Jim Furyk. So you got a couple of bombers and then, a straight hitting, very prototypical US Open type player. And, you're going to see your Jeff Maggerts and your Lee Jansons, and all those guys will populate those leaderboards amongst some of the big boys as well. Yeah, very unpredictable. I can't wait to watch this thing. The 5-inch rough, 168 bunkers on the course. You mentioned the greens. They're like Augusta. They are huge and they are lightning fast and they're undulated. It's going to be a very, very interesting test.
Yeah, it will humble a lot of golfers this week. So, look, I understand that Scotty Scheffler has got to be favored, and he's as big as a favorite as we've seen on any of the majors. He's plus 280 there. But I think what I've noticed here, and you mentioned bombers, is that look at Bryson's odds at plus 750. Like, that's pretty short for him going into a majors tournament. Then you have Rahm, who's played well in the past at this tournament. You see Rory back a little bit at 12-1, Xander at 22, and then Oberg at 22 as well. So, look, there's a lot of intrigue here, and some of the live betting more than anything else may be the way to go here, Brady, especially after the first or second round, seeing who ends up in contention. But to me, seeing Bryson there as the second favorite, not at 10-1 or 12-1, at 7.5-1, tells me he's got a real shot.
Yeah, I think he's really, taken the place of Rory McIlroy, who is certainly, as we've seen, taken a step back and is perfectly fine, just kind of resting on his laurels, which was a Grand Slam win at the Masters. And who can blame him? I mean, quite honestly, he might never win a major again. And not a lot of guys do after they win their first Masters. And it's perfectly fine. Rory has done everything he needs to do in this game. And it's probably going to be a minute before he kind of, gets over this Masters hangover. And God bless him. It'd take me a minute too. But Bryson, I think, has kind of surged into that, secondary role right behind Scotty. He's the defending champion. He's won 2 US Opens. Now, the last time he won it at Winged Foot, it was the bomb and gouge theory, and he didn't care where it landed. He just hit it as far as he could, and he was successful with that approach. I don't think it's going to work here at Oakmont because there is so much trouble. It's not just the rough. There are gullies and gorges with literally knee-high grasses, and then you have the bunkers. There's just too much trouble out there. Craig, we often talk about like Augusta National and a number of different courses, a lot of Jack Nicklaus courses, like where they played the Memorial, as second shot golf courses. Like, it's not too difficult to find the fairway off the tee, but it's that approach shot. It's all about hitting the green in the right spot, this and that and the other. I think Oakmont is a first shot golf course. You have got to be good off the tee. When Dustin Johnson won here in 2016, he was number 1 in this field in total driving, and that included 18th for driving accuracy. So it's nice to have some power, but I think what we're hearing out of camp this week in Pennsylvania is accuracy trumps distance. And again, that leads me to my belief that you've got to be good here with that first shot to set up the rest of your hole.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. It's interesting that one of your picks is a little bit of a sneaky one, and it was a favorite if it was this time last year, and Jon Rahm starting to play a lot better, Brady. I think probably flying under the radar based on his last 2 performances, and down the stretch, I thought he was really impressive in the last major. So he's 14-1, and I know you have some long shots too. I see Harris English has made the board again.
Yeah. I bet English way back in January when he won at Torrey Pines, which of course is a U.S. Open venue. And English has been marvelous in the U.S. Opens, fourth at Winged Foot, third at Torrey Pines, eighth at the Los Angeles Country Club, and then of course just runner up at the PGA Championship. The cat's kind of out of the bag. People are aware of this guy at this point. He's having a fantastic season. So I don't know if he's become a little too popular, but he's got that absolutely prototypical U.S. Open game. And that's where a lot of my guys on my card come from. It's just the profile. It's hit it straight, hit the green, and make a putt. It's sometimes boring golf, make another par and move on. But again, with that winning score predicted to be right around even or 1 under par, that's what you're looking for, a guy that is not going to get himself into too much trouble. And that's exactly where Tommy Fleetwood falls, who's finished top 5 3 times in this championship. It's really been his best major. Russell Henley, again, a shorter hitting, but straight as an arrow, iron player, short game. Sepp Straka, Denny McCarthy, all those guys are kind of in that same profile. Again, that, I go back to the Jim Furyk's and the Lee Jansons and the Payne Stewarts, very much U.S. Open type players. And then, like I say, you got to have a big one on your card. I went with Rahm, and I went with Patrick Cantlay as well, who has never missed a cut in a U.S. Open in 9 tries in his career.
Brady, can't wait to get it started tomorrow. I know I'll be catching all of your work here on SportsGrid and following, pulling out what air we have left this weekend at the U.S. Open. Thanks again.
Can't wait, man. Happy Father's Day.
All right, you too, Brady. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on the show. When we come back next, boy, the Dolphins seemingly trying to change their culture. How are they doing it? Next.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
No one is going to pick Indiana. No one's going to pick Indiana to make it close, honestly. Like, you could get tremendous odds if you pick OKC in 7.
I think that taking the series over 5.5 games, the last 2 NBA Finals series ended in 5. I think this one goes 6. I think the Thunder will get the job done, but I think the Pacers are just too strong of a team and too talented of a team and too deep of a team to lose in 5 or fewer games.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Seems like it's been a while since we've been hearing from coaches and players in the National Football League, but that's what the month of June brings. OTAs are going on right now, and this is the last time that we will be hearing from some of our favorite players and coaches in the NFL until July. Training camp is about a month away. Time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Let's start off with the Miami Dolphins after a disappointing season again. last year. Seems like the Dolphins are getting a little spicy there, especially their head coach, Mike McDaniel, who's definitely on the hot seat this year, talking about changing the culture, holding more players accountable for things. What happened to last year? No one was accountable? I don't know. I guess I missed it. Meanwhile, Jalen Ramsey still a member of the Miami Dolphins, but as I mentioned, McDaniel getting pretty spicy in some of his press conference appearances, saying that can't really worry about the Ramsey situation.
Just to confirm, Jalen Ramsey not here.
Oh, he is not here. We are focused on building the Dolphins today, and anything outside of that any sort of distractions I'm not focused on.
Surprised it's taken this long to find a resolution with the team.
I don't personally, and I would lump you into this with me. I don't give a about what I feel. I'm not. I don't even really go down that road of how do I feel about it. My job is to react and control my controllables and make sure that people are moving in one direction appropriately. And so the business is business. The opportunity that business does provide in the off season is a rep to the team about handling noise. What do I define noise as? Noise is things that don't have to do with what actually you're there to do and you should be focused on doing because you'll be held accountable to do. So business in the off seasons allows you to speak to your team about how the focus of noise is a constant battle that if you're successful, you have to win.
Is that over yet? Whew, that was a tough watch. All right, never thought I'd be lucky to hear from Aaron Rodgers coming up next. Rodgers shows up, of course, for OTAs in Pittsburgh. Married Aaron Rodgers, by the way, as well. Talking about why he felt the Steelers were a great fit.
I think it starts with Mike Tomlin. I mean, I've been a fan of his for a long time. There's a few iconic franchises in the NFL. I played for one of them for 18 years. This is another one of those. There's something special about, obviously, this area. So many great quarterbacks are from Pittsburgh. I feel like Pittsburgh has been a part of my career from the beginning, playing for Mike McCarthy for 13 years, having Tom Clements, or Tommy Clements, depending on how old you are, as my quarterback coach forever, Dom Capers, Kevin Green, Darren Perry, Ben McAdoo, Frank Signetti, Luke Getsy. I don't want to forget anybody, but a lot of Yinzers in my life.
All right, a lot of good names there thrown out at the end. Some good names on the Cincinnati Bengals, not currently on the field, including Trey Hendrickson. Cincinnati still trying to figure out how they're going to field the team with all these players holding out. Here's quarterback Joe Burrow on some of the players currently not taking part in OTAs.
Now that you're more into your page, do you notice a difference in vibe or anything like that around the locker room and practice?
Definitely less distractions than last year. Those guys are out there working. I know they're, last year they were out there working on their own, not being here. But when you have those two guys that bring energy, guys that make incredible plays and day in and day out, and they're going to grind just as hard as everybody else, that permeates throughout the team.
You mentioned less distractions with Jamar and T having agreed to deals. Is Trey not being here or his deal not done? Is that a distraction?
Of course. Last year we had 2. This year we have 1, so we do have less. You'd love to have none, but that's life in the NFL. We're all supporting Trey and would love for him to be back.
Yeah, starting next month here on NewsWire, we'll have training camp covered for you. And then, of course, the NFL preseason begins in August. Football season, essentially here on SportsGrid, is about a month away. But coming up next, we're minutes away from being joined by Sam McQuillan of Legal Sports Report. Is it possible that both FanDuel and DraftKings are going to have a surcharge for you to place bets in the football season? My gosh. Sam McQuillan will give us those answers. Then Simon Applebaum joins us, talk some ratings for the NBA Finals. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be back after these messages. Don't go away.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
No one is going to pick Indiana. No one's going to pick Indiana to make it close, honestly. Like, you can't really, you could get tremendous odds if you pick OKC in 7.
I think that taking the series over 5.5 games, the last 2 NBA Finals series ended in 5. I think this one goes 6. I think the Thunder will get the job done, but I think the Pacers are just too strong of a team and too talented of a team and too deep of a team to lose in 5 or fewer games.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Great to have Sam McQuillan here in the house on SportsGrid, breaking down the very latest on sports betting news across the country and abroad. We bring Sam in to discuss the hottest topic going on right now this week in the state of Illinois. And Sam, to recap for some people, the state of Illinois has decided they would like to make more money off people making sports bets. Simple and plain. The sports betting operators are responding by this, saying, if you're taking money away from us, we got to have a piece of the pie too. I have a feeling, Sam, this is just the beginning of some sort of battle in court somewhere. And by the way, whoever wins, I think other states are going to take notice.
Yeah, this is just the beginning of sports betting companies really putting their foot forward and saying, there's a bunch of states out here that have had high tax rates, and usually tax rates don't go lower on businesses, especially on things that are viewed as a sin industry like gambling is. And a bunch of states have been inching more and more towards that. Just last year, actually, Illinois used to have a 15% tax rate on sports betting companies, which was about middle of the road. Then they raised it last year from a graduated 20% to 40%, with operators like FanDuel and DraftKings being hit the hardest at the top of that. So it went from 15% to 40%. Now, just about a month ago, a couple of weeks ago, Illinois decided that they wanted more money out of sports betting. I think a lot of times, lawmakers see how much is being spent in the space. It's a lot of cost to do business. A lot of money gets thrown in. Whether or not they actually profit from all that is a different kind of story. We're just now seeing companies starting to profit, but they add this 50% wager tax on every bet in Illinois on top of their 40% tax already. So effectively, these companies are going from paying 15% just a year ago to now 50%. So for a long time, companies have said, oh, the cost will be passed down to the consumer. It'll be reflected in worse odds. And what we saw FanDuel do this week is announce that they're going to have a 50-cent transaction fee on every bet placed in Illinois, which will start in September, about a month after the tax takes place. So that effectively is going to hit the average bettors the most. If you're betting $10 on a minus 130 wager, for instance, your odds are now more like minus 139 because you're getting a 50-cent chunk taken out of that winnings. If you're a $100 bettor, the odds go from about minus 130 to about minus 131. So the more you bet, the less you're impacted by this because it's only 50% or 50 cents. It's a smaller percentage of your bet. But most customers are betting about $5 on parlays. It's about 60% of FanDuel's same game parlay business is $5 bets. 90% is $30. So it's really the average bettors that are going to get hit most by this. Now, FanDuel has come out and said, we're happy to take this away if you change the tax. I don't think that Illinois is going to do that anytime soon, probably not before they institute it. We saw DraftKings float a similar idea last year, about a year ago, saying they're going to have a surcharge on winning bets, essentially the same thing as a transaction fee. They ended up not going through with that idea. They got a lot of backlash, but I think it's really interesting here that FanDuel is not really getting a lot of backlash for this. A lot of that is being targeted on Illinois for raising the tax rate. We've seen other states like Ohio, Maryland, Louisiana just continue. There's more appetite to do this sort of thing as states try to make up money. Now that budgets are tighter, it's that time of year where you're figuring out your budget. They don't have the surplus that they did when sports betting became really legal across the U.S. during COVID, when states actually had a lot of money in their budget. So this is the first kind of big pushback by a company like FanDuel. And again, I think it's really interesting that we're not seeing a lot of targeted negative attention on them. DraftKings has already come out and said, we'll probably do something like this. Every other sports book is sort of quiet on this front, probably waiting for the next domino to fall. Again, FanDuel and DraftKings are getting hit hardest by this tax because it's a graduated rate. So we're definitely going to follow what happens here. We'll see what comes September 1st, whether or not this actually goes into effect and whether or not other states try similar raises and it gets a similar reaction from companies like FanDuel.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think, the story of the year if another state steps up and does something similar. But I have a feeling we're just at the beginning of that. Now, meanwhile, I read a column over at Legal Sports Report, a positive column, which is very rare these days, about athletes interacting with some sports bettors. Now, every story, Sam, that seems to be coming out lately is about how sports bettors are taking aim at athletes when they lose their bets. We've seen it in tennis. We've seen it in basketball. We saw it in baseball recently. But I wonder, the placement, honestly, of this story. Does it mean good things for the NCAA to report essentially that they're seeing less fans coming after athletes when they lose their bets? Because certainly this could open up the door for more opportunity to have betting props and things of that nature. I like to kind of see through some of these stories, Sam. Is there anything to see through here?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to take in overall. First off, to your point, I was very happy to be writing a positive story about abuse targeting athletes. You hear more and more about it. I think social media has amplified it. Obviously, the fact that we're all able to bet, not going to a sports book now, you can just do it from your couch in 5 seconds. And all these athletes are very much online. You see people like Kevin Durant getting in arguments every day with people. They're very accessible. A lot of people just like to get a reaction. So it is positive to see that abuse targeting college athletes during March Madness was down overall as it relates to sports betting. It was down about 36% for men and 83% for women. So the more and more we hear about these circumstances happening, Gabby Thomas, the Olympic sprinter, just had a big thing happen the other week where some guy was heckling her and claimed he won his parlay because of it. It becomes better to study what are we just seeing as more news out here and what is actually, what do the numbers tell us compared to last year? So, the NCAA has done a lot of campaigns about, being responsible, about, treating these athletes as humans. I wish we didn't have to do this kind of thing, but they have spent a lot of time on this. And to your point, they have spent a lot of time with states and lawmakers asking for prohibitions on certain kind of bets that seem to spark more harassment. If it's a player prop bet, that's much easier to target a player than it is an entire team typically. One thing that the study did reveal, which was actually interesting, is that while harassment against athletes was down, harassment against coaches, officials, and selection committee members was actually very much up compared to last year. So I don't know if people are just less angry or less outspoken, or if they're just shifting it to other, other groups of people that are maybe easier to get away with harassing. Maybe it's, I don't know why perhaps that has been the case, but that definitely was the case in the study. The NCAA has partnered with a bunch of new groups to monitor this kind of thing. So again, doesn't tell us everything, but it is good that it's being studied as opposed to just here's the next news cycle of, X, Y, and Z player got harassed and it was sports betting related. So encouraging nonetheless, but would love to, keep finding out more about this kind of thing.
Let's end, Sam, with a sports betting operator leaving New York. It's just very hard to keep up with some of the top sports betting operators. It was fun while it lasted for some, but realizing that getting a very small share of the pie, or I guess in this case, minuscule, doesn't add up to running a business.
Yeah, Resorts World Bet announced this week they're going to be leaving New York. Bettors have about till the end of July to withdraw their deposits. And to your point, they really did not ever gain much of a foothold in the state ever since they launched back in 2021. They had about 0.02% of all bets in the state. So really, no one was betting with them. If you're in New York, you might have not even known they existed. So now their license will be up for grabs. FanDuel and DraftKings have been dominating the market. And one possible entry could be Bet365, which does have a lot of money because they're privately backed. They're a huge global sports book, and they've been trying to add new states. They just did Tennessee and Illinois. So while it's very hard to make money in New York, they could be really well positioned to take over this license from Resorts World. And again, New York is a very tough market, 51% tax rate. Very hard to make money there, but it's also the biggest market, so it's very important for sports books.
Sam, great to see you. Have a great weekend. Thanks for coming on. We'll catch up with you next week on NewsWire.
Yep. Thanks, Craig. You too.
All right, we'll take a quick time out. We come back next. Simon Applebaum with the podcast tomorrow will be televised. Joins us. How many folks are watching the NBA Finals? Indiana and Oklahoma City, a small market making a definitive impact on the ratings in these. We'll have the answer to that next here on NewsWire. Don't go away.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
No one is going to pick Indiana. No one's going to pick Indiana to make it close, honestly. Like, you can't really, you could get tremendous odds if you pick OKC in 7.
I think that taking the series over 5.5 games, the last 2 NBA Finals series ended in 5. I think this one goes 6. I think the Thunder will get the job done, but I think the Pacers are just too strong of a team and too talented of a team and too deep of a team to lose in 5 or fewer games.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. NBA Finals underway. We'll find out how many folks are watching that. Also, the Stanley Cup Finals, of course, very intriguing. Florida, Edmonton, not the biggest markets, by the way, you would say, probably in the NBA Finals or the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's bring in Simon Applebaum for the latest on that and a whole lot more. Simon, great to see you. Great to have you back here on NewsWire as well. I know we'll get to that. And, of course, a big story here at the top with a new network getting ready to launch.
Now it will premiere in August. It will have 50 hours of live sports coverage every week. The announcement was made deliberately today because it's 1 year from now that the World Cup will be, that's the big soccer tournament, one of the biggest sporting events in the world, will be held here in the United States, in Canada and Mexico. Telemundo, by the way, will carry all 104 games live, many in prime time, first time ever in Spanish language TV history. And when it comes to Telemundo Deportes Ahora, this is the fourth all-sports Spanish language network around. You have Fox Sports, you have ESPN Deportes, you have Tudum from Universo, and now Telemundo comes in. As I said, for 50 hours of live sports a week, probably some Sports Center coverage. I think this is going to be a place where you're going to find NBA games, now that NBC and Peacock will have the NBA starting this fall, WNBA games next year, probably Big Ten college football, maybe college basketball as well, and a lot of other sports that currently are running on NBC or on Peacock or on Golf Channel. I could see the FedEx Cup playoffs coming on, LPGA, European World Tour, and if I'm the U.S. Olympic or International Olympic Committee, I'd be pressing Telemundo to, for the first time ever on this network, do World Cup, Winter Olympics coverage. They do Summer Olympics coverage. They have never done Winter Olympics coverage yet. This network going on in August could be the step that Telemundo needs to finally say, hey, we're a player for the Winter Olympics, which of course will be next year in Italy.
All right, so big news on the new network. Now, bigger news probably here in the United States on the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals. And Simon, I guess to no surprise, look, let's not get it twisted. A lot of people are still watching the NBA Finals, but from what I'm seeing here, we're talking about some potential all-time lows in terms of viewership in the NBA.
We are, Craig. We told you about this last week, that when you have Indiana and you have Oklahoma City, two middle-sized markets, even though they're good teams, probably the two best teams right now in the NBA, the ratings were going to go down because there's no major market like New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles. And by the way, Game 1, 8.7 million people. That was down like 18% from the Game 1 last year, which of course is on ABC and at ESPN Deportes. However, the second game was down 8.7, excuse me, 8.9 first game, 8.7, which was down even more, 26% from last year. Tonight's game is huge. If Indiana does not win that game and Oklahoma goes up 2-1, I think the ratings the viewership is going to go into the toilet. And it's really unfortunate because, again, we may have a very interesting, if Indiana does win, we could have one of the most interesting NBA Finals in quite some time. Now, when we get to hockey, even though TNT and True TV have done a better job the second time around in promoting the finals, it's still a problem. Game 1, by the way, was 2.4 million. Game 2, 2.5 million. And Game 3, which was this past Monday night, 2.3 million. And that is still down from a year ago. However, in Canada, the viewership is up. 4.8 million for Game 1, 3.7 million for Game 2. That's on Canadian networks. So bad news for the U.S. and good news for Canada.
Yeah, and I think at this point, is it fair to say, Simon, that the NHL should not be stunned or surprised with whatever their ratings are? Because I think you kind of said it best, is that, I mean, they added Wayne Gretzky to the broadcast, and they definitely have stepped up the coverage, I think TNT has. But, hockey in the end is still going to fall short of the NBA, of baseball, and, certainly of football as well. We know that, and they've just kind of putting something together just to keep people interested.
Yeah, I think the issue with the NHL, it's been there for years, especially with the Stanley Cup playoffs and with the Stanley Cup finals, is that the viewership among the major sports, it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey, is the lowest. And it's the lowest for a lot of reasons. One is the playoffs run too long. Another reason is, as we saw with TNT 2 years ago when they got the Stanley Cup finals for the first time, don't forget, fewer people now have cable and satellite, so that means fewer opportunities for a big audience. And by the way, the viewership for the Stanley Cup now is TNT and True TV. So if you separate the networks, the situation is even worse. I don't know what else you can do. When the games, by the way, are on ABC for the finals or ESPN, it does better, but not that much better.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're not on there this year. Okay, so there's a split here with Warner Brothers and Discovery into two different companies. Break this down, how it happened and why.
Well, we saw this already with NBC Universal, where they split up, where you had the cable networks go in one direction. NBC, Peacock go in a separate company. The cable network's Versant, which, by the way, is going to be probably official by the end of the year. Now, Warner Brothers on Monday decided we're going to do the same thing. We're going to split things up so that HBO Max, that's their big pay service, their big mega content service, is going to be, along with Warner Brothers, the TV studio making company and movie making company, into one company, streaming and services, streaming and studio. The other, all the cable networks, that includes TNT, TBS, True TV, the Discovery services, from Home and Garden Television, Discovery Channel, they will be in what's called the Global Network Division. The problem is that you have TNT and TBS and True TV, et cetera, tethered to cable and satellite, which, as I mentioned before, fewer people have pulled, a lot more people pulled the plug on cable and satellite, now watch on smart TV sets and devices. So it means, particularly with some of these contracts coming up, like Major League Baseball, losing the NBA, the viewership is really going to be in trouble unless TNT finds a way to get more involved with smart TV sets, smart TV devices, and multi-channel bundles. It is going to be a very big issue. For the short term, however, they still will have the opportunity to have their programming, their sports programming, go on Max.
Simon, great to catch up with you here on NewsWire. I know you and I will talk again next week. Thanks for coming on, and have a great weekend.
You got it, Craig. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right, Simon Applebaum joining us here on the show. All right, coming up next, we get ready to wrap it up. We'll have a little bit of a mini preview as to what we could expect at the U.S. Open, and the Indiana Pacers are taking a cue from the New York Knicks. Will they have better results across the street? I'll have that story for you next.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
No one is going to pick Indiana. No one's going to pick Indiana to make it close, honestly. Like, you could get tremendous odds if you pick OKC in 7.
I think that taking the series over 5.5 games, the last two NBA Finals series ended in 5. I think this one goes 6. I think the Thunder will get the job done, but I think the Pacers are just too strong of a team and too talented of a team and too deep of a team to lose in 5 or fewer games.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. You may remember the New York Knicks coming up with a cool and funny idea to rename some streets outside the Garden after their players and then immediately lost. Indiana Pacers doing the same thing. Also the latest at the U.S. Open. It's time now for some last licks. All right, we'll start off outside Madison Square Garden. They renamed some of the streets after their players. It wasn't Patrick Ewing Street. It was Jalen Brunson and OG Ananobi Street, like a fun, cute idea that they did outside the Garden to honor the players that got them to the East Finals, but they immediately lost. Like, it's just like they did that and then they lost. So, I'm not so sure that this is a great idea, but we're going to find out, because right outside Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, the Pacers have decided to do the same thing ahead of their game 1 tonight against Oklahoma City. We got Halliburton Road, Bryant Boulevard, Obi Toppin Avenue, and Turner Lane. So hopefully this ends up working out well for the Pacers, but I think kind of the last thing that you want to do is copy a team that just lost, and the team that you just beat, by the way. But we'll see. Tonight's game, by the way, the Pacers are 5-point underdogs. The line seems to be pretty stable against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and as I mentioned, we'll have previews coming up later today here on SportsGrid. Okay, U.S. Open starting tomorrow. I don't know if you caught this on social media, kind of some funny stuff, is that they're getting the grounds ready for this upcoming tournament at Oakmont. If you missed Brady Kannon earlier in the show, he was telling us that there is certainly a chance that at the U.S. Open this weekend, we're going to have a player win that does not shoot par for the weekend, meaning they're over par for the U.S. Open. That's kind of crazy to think. And there have been a lot of the grounds crew working on the grounds. In fact, they're using lawn mowers to cut the grass. And the people that are out there doing it and have the lawn mowers are saying that it's basically impossible to play some of the course. You cannot even see the golf balls that are on the course this weekend. That's how difficult it is. So, two-part story here. Number one, why are the guys with the lawnmowers talking? Number two, are we making things a little bit more difficult than they need to be at Oakmont this weekend? I mean, is it fun golf to have a player win 5 strokes over par? I guess it's fun to see some frustration from the golfers, but man, this seems like this course is going to be some of the hardest that we've ever seen. That's coming up, of course, starting tomorrow, and we'll have live leaderboards for you here on NewsWire tomorrow around 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Finally, July 4th, folks, is coming, which means one thing. It is the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest, and for the first time ever, and when I mean ever, I don't remember a hot dog eating contest in the last 20 years without Joey Chestnut. If you may remember last year, he took his talents to a competitor and decided not to compete in the hot dog eating contest. But guess what? He is in talks to return on July 4th. How many times has he won it? Remember, he beat that guy Kobayashi like 5 times? He's won 16 different times, but he was banned last year because of the sponsorship deal that he had with the plant-based vegan hot dog. So he had another contest. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you where it was or if he won. But nothing sounds like July 4th without having this guy back in the contest. And good to hear that this is potentially happening. I have a feeling we'll be doing this once again on the show before July 4th to tell you that he is officially back. Joey Chestnut, July 4th hot dog eating contest. I'm trying to think what was the most amount of I don't think I've ever done a hot dog eating contest. I think probably the most I could have would be like 3 or 4 or something like that. I mean, I know these guys eat 100 at a time. I don't know how they do it. All right, Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast, 3 o'clock Eastern. But first, we got Smiley Kaufman. Final preview before they tee off at Oakmont. Smiley's got you covered coming up in less than 3 minutes, so make sure you stay on the grid for that. Farrell, Coast to Coast at 3 to 6, followed by Front Office Sports doing a great job at our brand new show, a couple of months old, 6 to 6:30, so stay tuned for that. We have Game Time Decisions, which has previews of tonight's NBA games, the recaps of Major League Baseball, and a preview of tomorrow's Stanley Cup game as well. In-game live game day, and that's all followed by Gabe on Sports Rage tonight. Also, want to thank our great guests here on the show. They included Brady Kannon of SportsGrid, Sam McQuillan of Legal Sports Report, and Simon Applebaum of the podcast tomorrow will be televised. Thanks for Jake filling in for Luke today, who's on vacation. Thanks to Frank for producing the show. And, of course, I'm Craig Mish. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back with you for another edition of NewsWire. If you want to stream our shows for absolutely nothing, completely free, take out your phone and scan this QR code. The SportsGrid app, folks, it is free, just like our network, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What happens if you don't have an iPhone? You still can have it for the Google Play Store or Android. iOS, Android, it is available in the App Store. Have a great rest of your day. See you back here tomorrow for our next edition of NewsWire and the latest of the U.S. Open.